Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, November 28th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 381 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day brings us up north to Canada, where yesterday that nation's House of Commons voted by a count of 200 to 82 to approve a bill legalizing the adult use of marijuana. Bill C-45 is the proposed legislation outlining how nationwide adult use will work starting sometime next summer. The legalization bill now heads to the Canadian Parliamentary Senate, where it must survive consideration by that more conservative body before it can be signed into law. This is certainly a story we'll be following closely as things roll on. Speaking of Canada, Marijuana Business Daily is reporting that British Columbia-based licensed medical marijuana company Pham just announced a planned acquisition of a medical marijuana dispensary in California. Pham will pay a total of $1.6 million US for the Green Leaf Wellness Dispensary in Desert Hot Springs, with it already having made a down payment of $160,000. Pham currently owns cultivation facilities near their new Desert Hot Springs dispensary and expects to close on the deal before the end of the year. This isn't the largest deal of the day in terms of monetary value, but it's the most interesting of note because of its cross-border nature. Canadian marijuana companies enjoy easier access to funding through public markets than American firms do and can be expected to continue deploying their investment dollars outside their borders. Our final top story of the day is the news that the Honolulu Police Department of Hawaii has sent out letters to registered medical marijuana patients telling them to turn in their guns because of their status as patients. The story was first picked up by Russ Belville of the Marijuana Agenda podcast and verified by Leafly News yesterday. According to Leafly's story on the situation, the letter told patients that they had 30 days to turn in their guns and ammunition or to transfer them over to a non-patient. This is a great piece to read in full as there's a lot of background on the issue of gun ownership and medical marijuana that's tied up in the conflicts between federal and state cannabis laws. It's notable that the National Rifle Association has yet to weigh in on this, though probably not surprising given their well-documented lack of interest in protecting the gun rights of anyone who is not white, rural, and Republican. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, the Atlas Plant Trainer. You've heard me talk about my friends Rob and Danielle at Atlas Plant Trainer before. They're the two main medical marijuana caregivers who saw a need in the marketplace for an easy-to-configure support system for growing legal cannabis. So they built it from scratch. I've been following their story since the time their idea was just a handful of prototypes. I'm happy to report that the Atlas Plant Trainer had a fantastic MJ BizCon in Las Vegas just a couple of weeks ago. I don't have any hard numbers to share here, but when I ran into them on the trade show floor, both Rob and Danielle were all aglow from the attention and purchase orders they got from conference attendees. Get in early on this very awesome and sellable product yourself by opening up growbiggest.com to learn more about selling the Atlas Plant Trainer in your shop or dispensary. Or if you're a cultivator, you need the Atlas Plant Trainer in your grow house to truly maximize your yields. That's what makes the Atlas Plant Trainer such an easy thing to say yes to. You'll soon make back your small initial investment in purchasing the Atlas Plant Trainer thanks to the increased harvest you'll pull from your plants. Whether you want to sell the Atlas Plant Trainer or buy it yourself, your journey starts by opening up growbiggest.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Michigan State Police are in the midst of a trial period during which they conduct roadside drug tests on drivers they suspect of operating under the influence of cannabis in a handful of counties. I've reported on this story before, as well as the larger issue of testing drivers for cannabis intoxication, with the current state of the industry being that there's no scientifically accepted method for quantifying how impaired a driver is due to marijuana use. Not an agency to let science get in their way, the state police are testing a roadside method that collects and analyzes the saliva of a suspected driver. This is another story we'll make sure to check back in on as the tests continue and conclude. As the new year and its accompanying start date for California's Proposition 64 speed our way, the general story out of the Golden State is the varying degrees of readiness for legalization exhibited by different towns and cities. Leafly has a good story up about an expected vote today in Sacramento that could open up adult use sales in that city on January 1st by allowing currently operating medical dispensaries to make adult use sales. The City Council will also consider a proposal for a social justice equity program that would help local minority business owners get in the industry. Sam Wood over at the Philadelphia Inquirer has an insightful interview up that dives into the complex relationship that New Jersey and Pennsylvania will share as they respectively legalize marijuana to different degrees. Pennsylvania is in the middle of rolling out a relatively robust medical system that will be up and running later this year, and New Jersey is poised to make the jump to full-blown adult use legalization just as soon as disgraced Governor Chris Christie slinks out of office in January. If you have any business or interest in either of those two states, this is a good one to read in full. And even if you don't, there are plenty of good interstate lessons to be learned from the story that could be applicable in other parts of the country. A new poll out of New York State finds that a majority of registered voters are in favor of legalizing marijuana as a way of closing the state's $4 billion budget deficit. The poll was commissioned by the MPP Foundation and the Drug Policy Alliance and conducted by Emerson College. It asked 600 registered voters about their thoughts on various revenue-raising ideas, and legalizing adult-use marijuana was the only one to gain a plurality of support, with 60% of respondents being in favor. Compare that to the 19% who want to raise income tax and the 16% who think we should cut public educational funding. The poll had a margin of error of plus or minus 3.9%. Bouncing back up to Michigan for a headline, we have a story out of the state capital of Lansing that nicely illustrates the complications that come with changing marijuana policy. WKAR is reporting that Lansing has yet to receive any applications from hopeful medical marijuana dispensary owners, likely due to the fact that state rules for medical marijuana businesses are still being worked out, even as the December 15th deadline for applying approaches. A legislative committee in New Hampshire tasked with studying the idea of adult use legalization met for the third time on Monday and discussed, among other things, the challenges legal states have with banking their marijuana business dollars. And finally for today, Marijuana Business Daily's chart of the week shows the rather large disparity between the largest companies in Canadian and American legal marijuana markets. Thanks to the aforementioned easier access to public markets, the largest publicly traded Canadian firms dwarf their American counterparts. In terms of market cap, Canopy Growth Corporation is the undisputed top company, with a value of just under $3 billion. In comparison, the largest U.S. firm, TerraTech, has a market cap of around $188 million. Not a bad number of millions to have, but still far from the ranks of billions. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, the Atlas Plant Trainer, and to all of our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today.
One take, Shay. One take.